All right, everyone, welcome to the second session of the Getting Out There program. And so I'm going to start quickly by asking everybody a question. Actually, let me unpin myself. And the question is, I have 5 questions. Okay. So who worked on writing their marketing message? Put up your hand this week. Okay, so I think we have 100% there. Okay, great. Who worked on then fine-tuning that message? Maurice says, I don't know.
That's a
Can I do it
scratchy
or
head.
not?
That's a
Okay,
scratchy head.
who sent me their marketing messages? Christine, you didn't. Kirk didn't. Okay, look, if I ask for homework, you've got to send the homework. It's not an option. Because you're not doing the homework completely if you haven't sent it. If I don't say to send it, fine, sometimes I won't, but you've got to send it.
I'll
Send me
email it
your
right now.
worst
I have it ready.
stuff. Send me your worst stuff. You know, you judge stuff and you go, oh, it's not good enough. I might look at it and say, hey, this is one of the best ones I've ever seen. This is why we need a group for feedback and insight about this. Look, send me your bad messages, send me your bad writing, do the best you can. But you know, perfectionism in this course is not allowed. You don't get to be perfectionists. Perfectionist is a grave mental disease. Perfectionism hurts you a lot. That doesn't mean working hard at something. That doesn't mean doing your best. That doesn't mean trying it 27 times. But if you go for perfectionism, it'll never be good enough and you'll never try it and you will fail at this. So I have a commitment to everybody that you will succeed at this. And I can guarantee that if you go for perfectionism, you're going to have a problem. Can everyone buy into that? Yes. Be imperfect. Just let it hang out. Try shit out. Really, that's what you need to do. Okay. Sometimes I will use salty language, sometimes saltier than that. I will not do it out of anger. I will do it out of love and appreciation. Okay, so let's move on with this shit. Okay, so next one. Who practiced their message out loud? Some people didn't. Sort of, maybe, kind of. Suraj didn't. Audrey didn't. Look, practicing your message out loud is a big key, because this message is an audio message for the most part. Now, you'll be using it in written materials, et cetera, but we start with audio. We start with, let's try it out. Now, what's his name? Oliver didn't make it, but he said, I tried it out with a lot of people. And he said it was interesting because nobody understood what the hell I was talking about. And until you try it with someone, you're not going to know what the response is. Marketing is all about trying things and seeing if you get a response, you know, at every single level. You know, Procter & Gamble puts together 100,000 mailing pieces and mails them out as a test. They try stuff out and then they say, okay, well, that's the response to that test. That's what they call the control in marketing. And then they say, okay, let's see if we can tweak it to get better than that test. And then they try 10 things and none are as good as that test. They go, okay, that's about as good as we can do right now. But sometimes they change a headline, they change a word, they change the color, they change a layout, whatever, and it increases by 5%, 10%, 50%. You know, same with a marketing message. So Simone uses a message and she tries it a few times and people go, you go, why isn't it sticking? And then she tries again and then she tries a different word, a word that she was afraid to use before or whatever. And all of a sudden people say, oh, that's interesting. And I've seen this a million times in working with people. We're too afraid, we're too careful. We don't want to, you know, be embarrassed. So we try something else, and we try something else. We try something silly. We try something serious. We try something more profound. We try a difficult word. We try a simple word. And then, you know, you get the kind of result that I talked about on my vacation, where someone said, "Oh my God, that's just what I need." You know, when you start to get "that's from me" responses or interested responses, no, "that's from me" response is almost like a home run, right? You just want to get a base hit. Oh, that's interesting. How do you do that? And if you never get that, the words aren't right, or you're not talking to the right people. Okay, so we're going to really get into this, and you know, I've given you what you need to do, but you have to do it on your side. You have to put in some time every week to work on this. Kirk.
I sent it to action@actionplan.com. Is that the right address?
Yes.
Okay, good. I've sent it.
You just sent it right now?
Just right now. Yeah.
Okay, well, I won't look at it right this second, but I will look at it.
Right.
And did anyone send it to me and I didn't give them feedback? I've tried. Sometimes it slips. I didn't get yours, Robert. Okay, let me jot it down. So shame on me for doing that. Robert Demery. And some just sent them at the last minute, so I didn't have time today if you sent it today. Okay, so we got more. Who practiced in the mirror or on Zoom with your message? So about 3/4. Okay. So no kidding, practicing in Zoom is a transformational experience. Because this is what you do. You go, "I help people," and you go, "Oh my God, I wouldn't believe myself in a million years." Okay, try it again. "I help people." Oh, that's a little bit better. And then you go, "I help people transform their lives using cotton swabs." Even something silly like that. It's like, wow, what is that? You know, so your delivery is important. And I'm not saying you should be wildly enthusiastic and crazy necessarily, but you got to be alive. You got to be present. You know, people deliver messages like they're asleep. Well, I got to be careful. I help people transform their business so it's a wonderful culture. Who's going to care about that, right? And it's when you practice in the mirror that you can come alive and you realize, hey, I'm not bad. I'm pretty good at this. I get it. I can be excited about this. And do it more than 5 minutes. Do it 6 minutes. Do it 10 minutes. Do it a few minutes until your brain explodes, and then you take a break and try it again. You know, do it a little bit every day. Really get into this. You know, when I'm developing new stuff, I write a bunch of stuff and then I put on the video, and sometimes I'll talk for an hour presenting this stuff, and then I'll watch it and I go, "Oh, that sucked." And then I'll do it again. And you know, it's like I am practicing, I am rehearsing, I'm thinking it through. And that's when I'm doing a presentation or something. A message is a lot simpler and shorter, obviously. So you'll be doing presentations and stuff like this. So you got to be on stage like an actor in Hamlet, delivering your lines. Okay, the final one. Did anyone practices with another live person, practice your message and see what their response was? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so fine with that. But this week, it's a must. And so this week, I want you to practice all of these. Write it, fine tune it, do it out loud, do it in the mirror. If you do it in the mirror, it counts as out loud, 2 in 1. And at least with 3 other people this week, at least 3. You know, call a friend and say, "I need to practice my marketing message. I have the homework. And if I don't do it, my teacher will be very disappointed in me," which I will. So do that, okay? Getting sick of me yet? Okay. So let's hear. I would like to hear from a couple people that came up with something and they feel, hey, I think I got something better now than when I announced it last week. I mean, I just put you on the spot and you gave it a try last week, and then some of you wrote out 5 or 6 of them and said, "I think this is best." And just Maurice this morning, I said, "Yeah, I think this one is the best one," et cetera, et cetera. I think was that you, Maurice? No, it wasn't you. It was somebody else. Anyway, Yeah. So who would like to give me their marketing message based on the question, what do you do? Who would not like to do it, but we'll do it anyway. Okay, Robert Demery.
Yeah, I really don't want to do this, but I'm forcing myself. So my marketing message is, I help business leaders and their teams quickly release the invisible brakes that hold them back from greater effectiveness.
Okay, that's not bad. So it needs rehearsal, but I think I gave you this feedback. I don't know if I talked about this this last time, but this is an important concept. Think of as an audio logo as a setup or a marketing message as a setup to a joke where you don't give the punchline. See, if you don't give the punchline, then they got to ask a question. So say the first part of it without the last part.
I help business leaders and their teams quickly release the invisible brakes. That's
So I help who in their team?
business leaders and their teams.
Business leaders and their team release their invisible brakes.
Quickly release.
Quickly release their invisible brakes. Now, I might not know what that is, but and I'm not sure if it's perfect because you got to test it, but at least it raises some curiosity. Well, what brakes? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, that's why I like it.
What's that?
So I'm finally understanding what you're talking about here. That I always got stuck with, the marketing message has to exactly describe what I'm offering.
It doesn't. It really doesn't.
And it's more of needs to be informative, but most importantly, provocative. Like, oh, what do you mean quickly? How quickly? And invisible brakes. What the hell is that? Can you tell me more about invisible brakes? What's that?
Yeah. So the key words in that, the key two words were invisible brakes. That's kind of interesting. It's not something we talk about all day. So we help leaders in the teams quickly release their invisible brakes. So, it's risky to do that because if it doesn't get a response, they say, oh, how nice for you. That wouldn't be, oh, how nice for you, Robert. Good boy. So
need to get some coffee. Yeah.
But it's like, you have to have the courage to say something that will, oh, what is that? So if they have a question about it, or if it's like not totally clear because of that, see, we want to be totally clear and absolutely understandable. So it's all wrapped up in a knot. That doesn't really work too well. So the one thing we always want to leave out of it is how we do it. That's the process part, right? I notice everyone has their hands up, so I'll get to you all in a second. So enough for me. Let's hear Kirk. And don't forget to unmute yourself. You're muted. You're still muted. Can we unmute Kirk?
Unmute.
There you go.
Okay. So let me just get this fun. Okay, so you can ask your question.
Kirk, what do you do?
Well, small business owners who are frustrated with their lack of personal fulfillment, I have a solution. Let me help you develop a winning business strategy.
Wait.
For more success and satisfaction.
Stop. No, you don't do a pitch at the end. There is no pitch.
No pitch?
No pitch. This is why I have to repeat this a million times. A pitch, all it is a tease to get them to response. So remember, there's a lot of different ways that you use this. One is you're in a networking situation, or you're say, hey, I just want to let you know what I'm up to these days. And you use your audio logo and you see if there's a response to that. But if you say, let me show you how we can do this, it's a complete and utter turnoff if you do that. Not only is it ineffective, it's really, really, really ineffective. It doesn't work.
What about this one?
Okay.
If you're a small business owner who feels like your business is running you instead of the other way around, I can help you. Okay,
don't even say I can help you. You don't need to say that. And I want you to start with this. here's the format. I help these people that have this problem or want this result. Period. End of story. So try that. I help, because it's
Okay.
pretty good, the content. I help.
Okay. I help small business owners who feel like their business is running them instead of the other way around.
Yes, yes, hallelujah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because see, remember that I said it's not a whole pitch, it's the beginning of a conversation. And if they say, oh, that's interesting, well, how do you do that? You know,
You've got some
something
interest.
happened. They're interested in, they can relate to the problem. That instead of them running the business is running them. So
Right.
this is why you now, I don't know if you have the time immediately after this call, but I would get on Zoom and I would practice this out loud and then watch yourself
Okay, will do.
and see and see it.
Okay, that was very helpful. Thank you.
So sorry for slaughtering you there, but
No, 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 no. Hey, I am paying you good bucks to slaughter me. Okay.
okay. We got to get that as a quote. I'd play you good bucks to slaughter my marketing things. Okay, good. Okay, great. Okay. Now nobody else do that, okay? Okay, Maurice, you can put your hand down, Kirk. Okay, Maurice, let's hear it. What do you do?
I help professional services companies fall in love with government proposals.
Yeah, I like it. See, it's a positive one with that humor. Fall in love. And you know, here's the thing that Maurice has that you guys might know. He's a part-time actor as well. So there's no excuse for not him, you know, the dramatic pause, the articulation, looking in the eyes. No excuse for him. He knows how to, you know how to do that, right? So remember, when you're doing this, this is your greatest acting job, Maurice.
Very true.
But
Very
it's
true.
based on the truth of what you really do. So I help
Robert,
service
what-
business fall in love with proposals. It's how no, look, I could be wrong. You could do that and it'll fall dead, but I would try it.
Okay. One thing I would from here on, I'll switch out proposals with tenders, because here in Australia we're known as a tender. As a tender is the document you actually have to tender for the business. In the US, because most of you are obviously in the US, I've used proposals. But I think if I'm going to get proficient at doing this, then I need to use the language that's relevant in my market. So I'll use tenders, but that's what I'm talking about.
Absolutely, no problem. Yeah. Use the language that's right for you.
Yeah.
Okay, good, Maurice. By the way, did other people like that, or is it just me? Or just my funny sense of humor? Okay, good. Look, finding a way to do it humorous but not silly is really powerful. Yeah, that's sort of, it's an ironic, right? Fall in love with proposals, as if that was even possible, right? Oh my God, fall in love with proposals. It's the worst thing in the world. So, by the way, after we do this, we're going to get more into the follow-up conversations. You know, what do you say when people react? Okay, Audrey, you're next.
I guide leaders and entrepreneurs who feel unfulfilled to work that brings greater meaning.
Okay. No, what if you see, it's double-barreled, unfulfilled, greater meaning. Double-barreled, that is problem plus solution. There's three ways to do it. Double-barreled is one, the other is the problem, the one is just the solution. And it really depends on a lot of different factors, how, you know, they can all work depending on a lot of things. But I want you to try something that will be really uncomfortable for you, but you will survive it. I promise you. I want you. Do you ever swear?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Just, this is not what you do. This is to get you out of yourself. Okay. I work with leaders who are fucking unfulfilled. And I want you to say it with that kind of emphasis, just as an exercise. I know you're a soft-spoken person, but I just want to sort of bring you out. So can you try that?
I mean, right now,
What do you do, Audrey?
I guide leaders and entrepreneurs who are fuckingly unfulfilled.
Fuckingly even. That's even better. Look, ultimately, there's a hidden emotion here because we're talking about they got a problem. We got a solution. That's emotional. It's not an intellectual exercise. Oh, yeah, I'm absolutely unfulfilled. I'm on the verge of suicide every day, but I don't want to take action. So, you know, if people are really unfulfilled and they get it, it's like, what do they want? They want fulfillment. So you could substitute the word effingly with, I work with leaders who, no matter what, they seem to still be unfulfilled. I would do it a problem oriented without the double barreled, without the result. It actually weakens it. But I would experiment with that. Try different words other than unfulfilled. I work with leaders that are really frustrated that they're still unfulfilled in their work. Now, it's not going to hit for everybody, but if it hits somebody, you know, it hits them emotionally. And there's a real potential there.
I might go to the solution because a lot of people come to me saying they want greater meaning. And so I know that meaning is a word that resonates with a lot of my clients.
Yeah, well, you can talk about that in the follow-up conversation.
Okay.
So remember, this is the opening salvo to a conversation. The rest of the conversation is just as important, and it can be trickier. So we're going to be working on that. When you I want you to practice in Zoom, and I would like you to practice in all volumes. Be a mouse, be bold, be insane, be Hamlet. I don't know, just
All right, will do.
let yourself loose a bit. You don't have to show it to anybody. You don't have to show it to me. You can erase it afterwards so that nobody finds it after you die and says, oh my God, she was crazy. When people find the stuff that's on my hard drive after I die, people are going, this guy was nuts. That's what they're going to say. Some of the stuff I did. I should try to erase that. Anyway, so will you do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks.
So, you know, we got to be willing to be a little outrageous, right? A little outrageous. Okay. Harriet. No, David is next. David. What is the outrageous thing? Unmute yourself. Always forget that. David, what is the outrageous thing you do for a living?
I help leaders create value for their own organizations and for our world, one step at a time.
Okay. So instead of me critiquing it, who else can give a critique? What works or doesn't work about that one?
Can you say it one more time?
Yeah, go ahead.
I help leaders create value for their own organizations and for our world, one step at a time.
Given all the coaching I've given you, what do you think? What do you think of that? What do you think would work better? What do you think would get your attention?
Kind of bland.
It's
Yeah, creating value sounds nothing unique.
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I triggered off of too. Let's see, what value? And it's just
That's-
almost too
that-
cliche.
I
It's
want
too
those
cliche in the
questions
industry right
because the depth I have underneath it in the response is very deep. So
Yeah, it
create
is.
value means a lot to me very specifically that isn't known out there, particularly if it's for your own organization and the world. So that's, and then also the one step at a time is very meaningful for what I do. So as long as I get a response, I'm on to a conversation.
As long as you get a response in the right direction. So I would flip it to a problem oriented. I would try, for instance, I work with companies that are frustrated that they create value for the company, but they're really not creating value for the world. So it's a whole different angle of looking at it. Because, you know, most companies will deny that they're not creating value in their company. This is one of the problems with audio logos. If you say, you know, we help companies be alive and participatory, and they go, oh yeah, our company's like that. And you know, it's like a gulag in that company. So, you know how some companies, you know, I worked with a couple companies that it was like going to a death camp every day. Can anyone relate to that, or was I just unlucky? It was like, do this, do that. Why aren't you doing it this way? Oh man.
Or insane.
At that point, I decided self-employment is for me. I'm out of here. Anyway, so back to you. Where's the emotional hook? Where are their beliefs? What are the, you know, creating value? Like I said, it's kind of bland. So
The emotional hook would only be that it includes for the world, that it's not just for their company.
yeah, because that's kind of interesting.
So to me, the emotional hook is I'm only looking for people. The only clients I want are ones that want to do both. And most of them are struggling with that.
See what you said there hit a lot better, right? It was like, see, if you said, what do you do? Well, I've committed myself only to work companies that not only want to improve themselves, but improve the world. Or to make the
So I
world
only work
better.
with leaders who want to not only improve their companies, but also the world.
Yeah. So that's much more in the right direction. You know, I only work with leaders that not only want to improve their company, but also make the world a better place or improve the world or whatever. You know, you got a word. Let me just tell you something about words. I learned this a long time ago. Every word is what's called a complex equivalent. That is, a word is a world of information. So every word really matters because it has a lot of angles of meaning. So for instance, if I say the word Paris, it's just a word, right? But what does that conjure up in your mind? Everybody give it to me. David, Paris.
Eiffel Tower.
Yes, Paris.
Cafes.
Cafes, Paris.
Great wine.
So,
Great wine.
Arc de Triomphe.
Exactly. All that stuff. So we use a word like valuable, like whatever. And it's like, if it's open to too much interpretation, then it waters it down. That's why you really have to work on words that are very specific. So when you say, I only work with leaders, it's like, okay, he's exclusively working with leaders. He's really focused. I get that. So, you know, as opposed to, well, I sometimes work with leaders that, you know, so words are tricky.
So,
Communication is tricky about when you get into this stuff.
so this is what I've got now. I only work with leaders that not only want to improve their companies, but also make the world better.
Okay. Use that as a starting point. But you got to practice it in Zoom. And by the way, when you practice it in Zoom, you have to look yourself in the eye when you do it. You can't be like somewhere else. You're delivering it to one person, and that's the person in the Zoom box, you, right?
Yep.
And if the person in the Zoom box gets it, you've communicated it. And then you can watch it later and you can see if you really connected or not. It's really powerful. You must do this. It is required to do this, to get this. Look, I've been teaching this stuff for a long time. I'm trying to up the gradient of how I've done this. I'm spending more time in this because I realize that it's so important. And I've seen people that they've learned all this stuff, and then I still hear their message, and it's like their message is dishwater. And a dishwater message is not going to get people excited or interested or intrigued. It's going to bore them. And you can't bore people into doing business with you, right? So it's challenging, but it's kind of simple as well. Okay. Good, David?
Yep.
Great. Okay. Harriet, you've been at this a long time. You better wow us. What do you do?
I help executives.
Go ahead.
Improve
Sorry,
the
start again. Sorry. Go ahead.
I
What do you-
help it.
What do you do?
I help executives improve their productivity without even lifting a finger.
That was not bad. That was not bad.
No,
Because
that was
increase
good.
their productivity by itself is kind of bland, but without lifting a finger, that's kind of intriguing.
Yeah. I have, if I may try a second one, increasing their productivity. I help executives soar even higher without even lifting a finger. But now when you said a word is a world of information, now what does soar mean and all of that? So I fell back to productivity.
Yeah, well, look, remember, the truth is in the test. The truth is in the reaction of a real life person. Someone would say, what the hell does that mean? That might be a good response if you've got a good answer to it. But this whole thing, I help people. You see, if I could say that, I'd probably be richer than I am. I help people attract all the clients they need without lifting a finger. Wouldn't you be curious to know what the hell I did?
Yeah.
I can't promise that. If you can promise that, because essentially you're getting their employees to be more effective and they're not lifting a finger. So that's interesting.
May
So
I ask a question, Robin? In your feedback to me, you used the phrase a run-on sentence. So I'm not quite sure what you mean by a run-on sentence. Would it be something like this? If people ask me, how do you do that? I could then say something like, well, I help their assistants to exactly meet their needs in a proactive and reliable manner.
No.
Not.
No. We're going to talk about follow-up sentences later.
Okay.
Almost always our follow-up sentences go into the how-to too much.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you the Zen koan of marketing. When someone asks you what to do, how you do what you do, make sure never to answer them. Every time you answer them, you strike out because you go into process. So there's a lot of ways to do it, but to explain how you do what you do. So if I say, I help people attract all the clients they need without lifting a finger. And of course, I lift my finger as I say that, so that without lifting a finger. And people are going to say, wow, how do you do that? I'm going to show you how to answer that kind of question in a few minutes after we've done this without explaining how I do it. Because often you explain how you do it and then you deflate it completely. Well, I train your people to, no, same old, same old. You've got their interest, you've got their curiosity, and then you expend that when you tell how you do it. This art of getting attention in conversation is simple, but really, really tricky, as you're seeing. Okay, Harry, thank you. Good. Okay, Angela, let's hear yours. What do you do, Angela?
I help leaders build organizations that are like a willow tree that bends with the winds of change and emerges even stronger than before.
Okay, not bad visual imagery, right? Not bad visual image. And look, even though it was a little longer, she didn't say how she did it. She pointed to an outcome, a willow tree that does this and this. It's kind of poetic. That's not exactly my style, but I thought I kind of liked it. What was your response to it? Did you like it or not like it?
I want to ask you, Angela, do you work with people who, was there an intention to maybe attract people who would be more connected to the earth, that type of thing? Because, okay, well, if you were having that intention, it would work. Or more like poetic type of people. I don't know. But I liked it.
Yeah, metaphors are really powerful. But not all metaphors at all times in all places. Some are more powerful than others, obviously.
Can I tell you what I had previously?
Yeah, please.
I help medium and large organizations build resilient and adaptable organizations that can thrive in times of uncertainty.
Yeah, the willow's better
better
because it's more interesting.
Yeah.
So, but it's how you deliver it. Well, I like to think that I help companies, and I like to think I help them be like a willow tree that is more flexible.
Okay.
Da, da, da. Help us
Yeah.
like this, and then you shut up and see what the response is. Look, I'll say this so many times you'll hate me after a while, but you never have it there's no such thing as a perfect audio logo, by the way. If you think it's good enough, you can always still play with it and try something else. And when I'm doing it, I write it out, I say it out loud, I write it out, and then at some point it's like, okay, that's good enough to try. Let's try that. Like I'm working on an email that I'm going to send to my list. I'm planning to send to my list, and I have it as a document, and I open it and I write it and I look at it and I say it out loud and I think about it and I let it sit for a day until it's like, okay, I'm ready to do it. You let it ripen. What would I might have said this, what would a perfect message be? What would the response to a perfect message be?
Tell me more.
Yeah.
That would be a good response and a very acceptable response. But what would a perfect response be?
What's your bank account?
What's that?
What is your bank account number?
What's your bank account now? Oh, so I can pay you?
When can we start?
When
can we start?
When can we start would be a perfect answer. Yeah, holy cow, when can we start? Yes. That isn't going to happen. If it might happen in a blue moon, but if we keep trying, it's like, I'd like to go until I got a perfect answer, but you still have to keep it simple. You can't do anything crazy, but you keep looking for yeah, that's interesting. Tell me more is what you're looking for. If you can't get it, tell me more. And by the way, if you give the punchline, you don't have to tell them more. And it's all over. So you want to have the conversation continue, or them being interested. Okay. Anyone else? Did everyone share? Did everybody go? Simone, sorry, you still got your hand up, and so does Daniel. So Daniel's in the corner. Sorry, here's first, and then you, Simone. Okay, go Daniel. Unmute. Yep.
Bear with me. I'm unmuted. I just gotta grab my text because I don't have it memorized. I apologize. There we go. I help experts and executives in biotech, healthcare, and technology transform the story so they create clout and big impact outcomes.
It's a little wordy.
Yeah.
But you got some good stuff in there. Clout and big impact outputs. That's really a mouthful, but it's, if you make your message too long, or if you make your message long, it's going to be a challenge to deliver it well. Not impossible. I read recently how many lines that Hamlet has in the play Hamlet, and there's 1,500 lines. And there was one guy that memorized Hamlet. It took a year to memorize those 1,500 lines. So with an audio logo, it will only take you half a year. So can you simplify it a bit?
Well, I'm sure I can. I'm not sure where to go. I mean, I can take out the industries. I could tailor the industries down. I could take off so that they create cloud, and I could take out cloud and or big impact outcomes. But I'm not sure where to go with that.
Look, remember, there's three ways to go. One is a solution, one is a problem, one is double-barreled, both. I almost always suggest these days that people start with the problem. So if you do it as a problem, so we work with organizations that are we work with leaders in organizations who are frustrated that they're not getting enough. Forgot your word. what was it? What was the last thing you said? The high, they're not getting enough high impact outputs. I work with people in organizations that are frustrated. They're not getting enough high impact outputs. Does it sound too jargony, guys?
Yes.
Yeah, but that it's sort of like mine. They're frustrated. They're not attracting enough great clients. So I make it simple.
You can drop the
Everybody can
output. Somebody
everybody-
suggested you drop the output. That would work.
Yeah, but output is an outcome, so it's clear, but it's kind of wordy.
But use high impact
So
instead of high
Just talk
impact
to me,
output.
Daniel. So you know, what
I help experts and executives transform the story so they have more clout and big impact. I do think my clients are more interested in results than big impact.
okay, result.
You know, so
Okay.
I tend to think those results or outcome are probably, that's what they want.
Yeah. So here's one of the problems with that. You say in the middle of it, transform their stories. So that's process. And then people get lost in that versus the outcome and they get confused. And I've heard worse. We help people, institute a storytelling culture so that lower level employees understand the impact of their blah, blah, blah. So, and it's so accurate and it's absolutely terrible, just doesn't work.
So what if I shorten it to this? I help experts and executives create clout and big impact outcomes.
It's better. Yeah. And then play around with a problem oriented and see if that works better or not. Look, we have to get out of our complacency. It's like, okay, that's good enough. No, just try something else. Try the double barrel, try this, make sure you strip out process, get to the heart. Are those the words they would use? Blah, blah, blah. It's really, really. So in other words, more. 27 varieties. What's Baskin Robbins?
31 flavors.
30 wonderful flavors. Yeah. I'm not saying you have to try 31, but you get it. The more things you try, it's often that you try a lot, and then okay, I've had it for now. And then you wake up in the morning with the perfect thing on your lips. See, if you're digesting all that stuff, all of a sudden your subconscious goes to work and I have dreams about the stuff I'm doing. And I wake up in the morning with an idea. It happens all the time because I'm really working with those ideas. Oh, by the way, did anyone experiment with ChatGPT? Okay.
I'm a regular user, not an experimenter anymore at this point.
Okay, good. Yeah. But, ChatGPT can come up with a wonderful word salad that isn't particularly impactful as a marketing message. So sometimes you go, oh, I got a good something in there. How can I edit that down? Okay, so let's take a breather for a minute. So, yes, Simone.
I haven't gone.
I apologize. Really sorry. And Christine has to go. Kelly has to go as well. Okay, Simone, your turn. Sorry.
I'm waiting for the question.
Yes, sir. What do you do, Simone?
I help people over 40 cut through the bullshit that prevents them from having the life they want. And I help brands write copy that their customers actually read.
Okay. Look, you got to figure out who you're talking to, so you only say one of those.
I can't.
Yes, you can.
Oh,
Look, if you're in a networking situation, ask them what they do first, and then you can go later. You know, we go into a networking group, oh, I want to deliver my message, you know. Don't worry about that. You know, find out other people first, and then, you know, so you're delivering a message to people that you have some clue about first. That helps.
Right. Those probably wouldn't happen at the same time.
Exactly. Exactly.
Those are two messages that I would.
Look, I got to give you props for the energy that you gave it. It's like, yeah, you're getting it. It's like, yeah. And, you know, she was willing to use the word bullshit. So it's like, okay, see how that works. Might turn off a few people, but, you know, bullshit is almost like
Bullshit.
5-year-olds use bullshit right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So say it again, just the first one.
Okay. I help people over 40 cut through the bullshit that prevents them from having the life they want. Don't you want that?
No, don't say anything after.
I know.
You want that, don't you?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. Good. Good, Simone.
Thank you.
Okay, Kelly, what you got?
Yeah, I liked that, Simone. Good work. Especially from remembering last week. Okay, so I have 2 different versions that maybe I want to see if one's too processy.
Okay, try one at a time. So,
Okay.
What do you do?
I help people stuck in chronic grief connect to a greater sense of joy in their lives.
Okay, I didn't understand the first words. I help people that are
stuck in chronic grief.
Oh,
Connect to a greater sense of joy in their lives.
okay. You know, you're going to get sick of me saying this. Shorter is almost always better. So, see, when you say I work with people who are stuck in chronic grief in their lives, period, don't say where it's going. See, yours is double-barreled. Problem, da-da-da. Double-barreled is harder. So I almost always don't recommend it because, you know, we feel uncomfortable because we feel incomplete. Set up punchline, leave off the punchline. They'll fill in the punchline for themselves. I work with people who have been going through chronic grief in their lives, or they're fed up with however you say it. But chronic grief is very emotional, is very powerful. Now, you're going to have a high percentage of people you say this to that are going to be in chronic grief, but they might know somebody else. You know, I work with people whose lives have been sidelined because of chronic grief. I can write that down. Lives have been sidelined. So one possibility, because that would get questions, don't you think? So,
yeah.
So what do you do?
Like yeah.
So what you do is you tell about, you know, it's people whose a loved one has died is usually the situation. A loved one has died and they just haven't found a way to get beyond it. And so it's really holding back things in your lives. Again, that's all about the problem. It's not about what you do, how you do it, how great they'll be afterwards. That's for later. So you really want to understand, you know, this sort of brings us to the treble hook where you talk about problems, but won't get into that right this minute. I think we have one more person to go. Suraj, we haven't heard from you. You didn't put your hand up. So I'm going to put it up for you.
Yes, sorry. Yeah. So I work with wealth managers who are struggling to scale up their businesses.
Wealth planners?
Yeah, wealth managers who are struggling yes, who are struggling to scale up.
It's a simple one. Who are struggling to scale up their businesses. That's not bad. It's simple. You know, struggle is a good word because people often relate to struggle. Struggling to attract clients. Who can relate to that sentence, struggling to attract clients? Everyone in this class anyway, right? Okay. We can let you go on that. Practice it out loud in Zoom.
Yeah, I'll do that.
You know, another thing, you know, I couldn't hear you too well when you were saying it. So when, you know, we got to enunciate our words. We can't mumble. We have to make sure it gets across. I have a situation in my life. My wife has really suffered a lot of hearing loss in the last few years. So I have got to enunciate everything I say and do it slowly. Because she says, what? I say, are you wearing your hearing aid? I say hearing aid because she lost one of them. Anyway, got to be clear. Okay, so.
Robert, may I tell a quick story? Really quick.
Go ahead.
What you mentioned, just say again what you said about a word contains a world of information, but you use some other phrase there. But when you said that, I thought of what I read about Hewlett Packard Industrial Research Labs. And their mission or vision was to be the best industrial research labs in the world. So they went away on a weekend for executives, and after a long debate, they changed one word in that. I give you a guess. Which word did they change from what to what?
Industrial?
Research labs, to be the best industrial research labs in the world. They changed in to for.
Say it that way.
To be the best industrial research labs for the world.
For the world.
So why I'm saying that story is the power of one single word. And if you want to be the best in the world, you want to beat the competition, knock everybody down. If you want to be the best for the world, it's a different ball game.
Yeah, words are subtle things, aren't they? They're so powerful.
Mm.
Not everyone is sure. How's that different? But anyway, we get the idea. Yeah. Words are powerful, and yet the delivery is just as important as the words, right? The structure is just as important as the words. The tone of voice is just important as the word. The eye contact or the listening is just as important as the words. Okay, so, excuse me. So we're going to go, this is how I've designed this course I have a plan, and if certain things are going a certain way, we change the plan. We go sideways a bit. So we're not going to get into the treble hook yet. The treble hook is a little too advanced for you so far. You got to master the message. So fine if you work on that a bit, but I want to talk about what came up in the conversation. You use the message and they say, how do you do that? How do you respond to that question without telling them how you do it? So I'm going to question.
I just thought that was a rhetorical question or a real question.
Explain.
No, I just wasn't sure whether you were asking the group a question or whether there was a rhetorical question leading to what you're going to teach.
Kind of a rhetorical question.
Okay.
So you say your audio logo that's good enough that they'll say, oh, how do you do that? That's a question you want to get, but it's not a question you want to answer. And you don't want to answer it because then they know all they need to know, whether it's right for them or not, too soon in the process, which is kind of tricky. So you want to, Audrey, ask me what I do and let's have the conversation. I'll try to muddle through it myself.
So
Robert,
what do you do?
I work with self-employed professionals who are struggling to attract great clients.
Well, how do you do that?
Well, here's a good example. I worked with a woman who was an executive recruiter. And she was great at executive recruiting, but she just wasn't good at attracting new clients. So we created a system for her that every single time she used it, she landed a new client. And what would you say then?
Tell me more about this. I'm really curious.
Right. And then I might say something like this. So I'm not going to talk about my process. And it's hard not to talk about our process, as you've seen today, right? You know, we're addicted to talking about our process because that's what we know, that's what we teach, that's what we do. So of course we have to talk about our process, but it's not very effective. So we want to talk about problems and outcomes. So I didn't tell about how I did the system. I simply said, we created a system that enabled her to close business every single time she used it. Which is true. And I shared this with one of my clients the other day, and I said, gee, I ought to be using that with more of my clients because it's a really powerful technique. Now you guys are wondering, what was that technique, right? We'll talk about it later in the program. Now you want to know. Now you want to have a conversation. So the whole idea of an audio logo or a marketing message is to get people interested enough to want to explore further later. So if someone is, if Audrey says, that's interesting, I'd like to know more about that. And I'd say, well, let's say we're at a networking event or whatever. And then I'd say, you know, I'd love to share with you about that. Would it be okay if we set up a meeting and I'll let you know more about how I help my clients? What would you say?
Sure, let's do it.
Sure, let's do it. Now, there's a lot of subtlety in that. You know, you can ask too soon. You can wait too long to ask. Timing is really important. So we'll be getting into some of those subtleties, but let's try it and see where it goes with some of you. So Maurice, give me your message, and I'm going to say, how do you do that? And then you want to say, let me give you an example. This is not the only way, but it's an easy way to people. You don't have to be too creative. Let me give you an example of how we did that. And then you want to make your example pretty concise, but impressive. Okay. So Maurice, what do you do?
I work with professional services companies who want to fall in love with government tenders.
Yeah, that's in your dreams, right? Yeah. So how do you do that? How do you actually get companies to fall in love with it? Because I know we hate that process.
Yeah, well, let me give you an example, Robert. I've just finished working with a professional services company. They have about 120 staff. They do all business with all of their businesses with federal government, and they've taken their win rate from 20% up to 50%. Now, the real impact of that is on their bottom line revenue, but that's the kind of thing that can happen when we get companies to fall in love with government tenders.
Okay, Academy Award for that one. Good, huh? Good, very simple. See, people love stories. People have a listening for stories. People really have a hard time with difficult concepts. So when you tell a story, and look, he didn't tell it perfectly smoothly and slick. It was just like, felt like off the top of his head. Which it was off the top of his head, because, you know, often stories, well, we've experienced that, we've done that, we know how to do that. So you find a story, and you know what? Here's an interesting thing. You could tell that same story 10 years from now, and it would just be just as effective. You just, you know, the client, the story that I gave to Audrey, that was a client I worked with more than 25 years ago. But I remember that story because it was such a powerful thing that I taught that person. Okay. So stories don't get old. You realize that all our culture and civilization came down through millennia, through stories without the written word. Stories were passed on for generations. So stories are powerful. And it's almost that we have a genetic receptor for stories. Oh, what's the story? What happened? How did it work? What is it? So it's interesting. Okay. So this is the thing that I'm going to have you work on next week. And then we'll get into working on the treble hook later. Okay. Because I want you to get into the mindset. Don't talk about the process, talk about the results, and use a story to do that. Pretty simple, right? Sounds simple, but let's see if we can try a few more. We'll see how easy it is. So I'm looking at Angela. So Angela, you want to try one? So tell me what you do, and then I'll say how, and we'll go from there. And use the one you used. So,
Okay, Robert.
So what do you do, Angela?
I work with leaders to help them build organizations that are like a willow tree that bends in the wind and they emerge stronger than ever.
Wow, nice delivery, by the way. That's interesting. So how do you do that? How do you make organizations both flexible and strong? That's interesting.
Well, let me give you an example. So I worked with an organization that was very frustrated. They weren't getting the right information. We turned that around, and they were able to sail through COVID and see their bottom line increase over the 3 year of COVID hell, or whatever we wanted to call that.
That would be a great example. Yeah. So when I hear something like that, and I'm open to that, I want to know more. And then that can turn into the next part of the conversation. So that was good. So, you want to find your best example. Not necessarily your latest example. Sometimes your latest but maybe your latest when you haven't produced that results at that level yet. But if you get a client that goes all in with you and does your work, you will fulfill the promise that you've articulated through your message. Right? Okay, good. Okay, fantastic. We're getting it. Okay, who wants to go next? See some hands. Okay, Kirk. Kirk, who's, having a nice time in Hawaii here.
Yeah, I was feeling cold, so I thought I'd put that up.
I love those anime. I love that background. It's great. So, Kirk, what do you do?
Well, I help small business owners who are so frustrated by their lack of personal fulfillment, it's killing them.
Wow. So how do you help them? That's interesting.
Well, let me tell you a story. I worked with a company in Australia, stuck in a glass ceiling of revenue for 5 years. I worked with them on their strategy, on a successful strategy, and within 4 months, they had doubled their revenue.
Okay. That wins the Academy Award so far. Sorry, you're second place, Maurice. Is that a true story?
Yes, it is. Into Australia.
Okay. Now, see how that's 10 times more powerful than the whole other thing you said? Stories just hit it home. I would say I want to know more about that.
Yeah, it's funny when you asked the question if I had actually used an audio logo with other people. Turns out I've had twice. I just didn't think about it. I won just before this meeting. So, but I think the audio logos that you gave, that you helped me craft now, and like the one I just used now, I think are far more powerful than what I used.
Definitely. Yeah. I got an email the other day. I get a lot of these emails. They're mass generated emails. We'll help you increase your SEO. And then I didn't respond, so I got another one. We'd like to help you, blah, blah, blah. So I sent an email back. I said, please give me a list of 10 people with their websites that increased their visitors with your work. In other words, I want to hear a story. And so they sent me back the world's longest freaking email today with an attachment with here's the complete thing of everything that's wrong with your site. It was obviously generated by AI. You know, you can look at a website and you can measure things. Did they give me one sample? No, not one sample. So that tells me they can generate a wonderful report, but I don't know if they've ever really helped someone increase their SEO. And they want, and only starting price of $200 a month. You know, there's a lot of people who are selling bullshit. So pretty interesting, huh? So we're getting it. Fabulous, Kirk. Look at that smile on his face. That's the smile that says, I get it. I can do it. Okay, big transformation on that today. Okay, I'm having fun here. Okay, who else wants to do it? Let's do a few of these. You got 20 minutes, so. Come on, put up your hand. Chris, was that a hand, Christine, or was that you? It wasn't a hand. Okay, Harriet. Okay, go for it. You should put up your hand as well officially, and then you'll appear in the top right of the left of the screen, which is
Okay. So where do we begin?
put up your hand. So you do that. Let's
The
get in.
digital one.
Put up your digital hand, yes, under reactions. There you are on the top left of the screen. Love it. Okay, so Harriet, what do you do?
I help executives increase their productivity without even lifting a finger.
We're having fun today with this. Okay, that's interesting. So how do you do that? How's that even possible?
Well, let me tell you, we help their assistants lift their fingers.
No. That's a concept. You got to tell a story.
Okay, well, let me tell you a story.
Oh, good. It can be, let me tell you a story, or let me give you an example.
Yeah, okay, let me give you an example.
Something like that. Yes.
Sure. We just finished the 4th group of executive assistants in a major financial company. And we supported them in supporting a system that helped them create more time.
Okay, so I would say we worked with a group of assistants that helped them create more time, an average of 1 hour more a day of productivity. And the manager got more productivity without lifting a finger himself. Come back to your thing.
Yeah.
So work on that. Work on, how do I say that? Because I got a lot of process in there, right? As opposed to we helped them do this, but the result is they gain. How much time did they gain? Was there a way to measure that?
Yeah, well, the feedback that I get from my clients is that on average, it's 40 minutes a day.
Yeah, 40 minutes a day.
You add that up, it's a month, a year. And that's for real.
Yeah, more 40 minutes increased productivity a day, which works out to a month a year. And they did that without having to lift a finger. Then I'd be interested to know more. Keep it simple. Strip out the process. Get to the bottom line. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Now we've got Suraj again. Okay, Suraj. So, what do you do, Suraj?
Robert, I work with wealth management firms who are struggling to scale up their business.
So how do you help them scale it up?
So let me give you a recent example. So this is one of the larger firms in India. They have a team of almost about 200 wealth managers. And they came to me and said, look, we have this group of about 14 of them whom they think have a good potential, but they are unable to deliver or live up to that potential. So I started working with them, and interestingly, the biggest challenge they had was they were struggling to get their best customers. And within a period of about 12 weeks, we were able to, start getting the numbers that they were looking for.
Okay, pretty good. It's okay to have some details in the stories like that. So I can really, a wealth manager and they had X number of people, but I'd like you to be more specific about the results. It sounded good. I am not the greatest measurer. Measuring is really powerful. So if you can say, and as a result, they increased their clients by X%, whatever percent it is can mean a lot of money to them, even if it was 5 or 10%, right? We want, it wasn't triple, I doubt, but who was like Kirk, the result that Kirk got was through the roof, right? So can you do that? When we have a story, think through your story. Here's the situation. This was the problem. We helped them, not too much process, and as a result, they got such and such. You really zeroed in. The thing is, they weren't getting enough clients, and so we did this.
Sure.
Whether you start stealing my stuff and helping your clients with it,
Sure.
then we're going to see real results. Okay, so we want to work on we want to make our stories credible, and they got to be real. You can't make up shit. It's got to be real. Give you the best real result that you can. Otherwise, you won't. There's a lack of integrity there, and you'll feel that, well, I'm hoping I can do this, and I'm sort of, it's sort of like this SEO company. It's like they're trying to impress me with all these stats about how my website sucks, but I don't know if they can really help me or not. Okay, great. Thank you. Simone. What do you do? Yeah, throw the pitch already, Robert.
I help people over 40 cut through the bullshit that prevents them from having the life they want.
Wow, like what kind of situation would that be?
I'll give you an example. So I worked with a couple who were on the brink of a breakup, but both were committed to hitting reset. And we met on Zoom for a few 90-minute sessions, and I helped them see the language they were using and the patterns they were perpetuating. And we cut through a lot of bullshit in a short amount of time so that they could enjoy one another. And they're still together.
And they're still together. Okay, a little too much process.
Okay.
Look, we'll have a chance to, if they're really interested, we'll have a chance to use process if we need to. But, what we did is we worked on some really deep issues. You don't tell them how you worked on it. Really deep issues that help them cut through, I say cutting through the BS, to get to the heart of the matter so that they could really make solid changes. And when they got to the heart of the matter, they made those solid changes, and they're still together, and their relationship has improved dramatically. So I'm probably going to ask you, are you a therapist?
Nope.
Nope.
Just a self-made, whatever you call me.
Yeah, I wouldn't use that. Don't undermine yourself.
No,
I'm
but
not a therapist. I am a human potential coach or something like that. You can label yourself if you need to.
Okay.
See, I think labeling yourself is always problematic. What do? I'm an accountant. We did that last week. Well, that means you're a boring person. So, but yeah, if you found a way to work with people this way, you probably studied 10 million books and worked with a lot of people and all that kind of stuff.
Totally.
And yeah, but I got a sense of, you really get into the stuff, and this whole thing about getting past the bullshit is very powerful. Then that word bullshit is a complex equivalent for a lot of stuff, for really, not telling the truth and doing this, lying to yourself, blah, blah, blah. Okay, practice that one, practice.
Okay.
Good. All right, who's next? Come on, I know you can do it. Okay, Maurice went, Angela went. Did Audrey go yet? I know I keep picking on you, Audrey. Audrey, it's because I like you so much. I appreciate you so much. So I want to really work with you. Okay, so Audrey, what do you do?
I guide leaders and entrepreneurs who feel
Slow it down, slow it down.
okay. I work with leaders and entrepreneurs who feel really unfulfilled with the work that they do.
So how do you help them? That's interesting.
Well, I can give you an example. I was working with a serial entrepreneur who had been fired by the board of her most recent company.
Great.
It was a real shock to her, and she realized that she wasn't really doing the right thing. She discovered she had this unfulfilled artistic side of her, and she ended up creating a business that was designing and manufacturing silk scarves, and she was thrilled with it.
Hey, good, right, guys? Good. You're starting to get how powerful stories are. I was with you every step of the way. You know, and it was like she was fired from the company that she started. That's an interesting story in of itself.
Yeah, I use that one a lot.
Yeah, it's a good story. Okay, guys, we're cooking with gas here. Okay, so how about David Sherman?
Yeah, I don't feel ready because I want to change my logo first and
Okay, fine.
get the right thing. So it's not time yet.
Okay, great. Okay, no problem. Daniel?
Yeah, I'll try my new one. I help executives and experts cut through the corporate crap.
Cut through the corporate crap. So how do you do that? What do you get with that?
Let me tell you a story. I was recently working with a chief data and analytics officer, and she hired me after making a $100 million proposal to the C-suite that got tanked. We recollected and I helped her build a strategy and tactics. 6 months later, she was able to get the project and the investment approved.
Where do I sign up for your coaching?
Right here. Send me your credit card.
Just give me your credit card, right? So you helped that person get $100 million project approved by the board.
Yes, and part of it, and seems a little bit long for the story, but she went and presented it. It was $100 million investment with a $1 billion prospective upside in 10 years. So the numbers were already there. The story wasn't really. I helped her transform the story and build the relationships to get it approved.
Okay, so most transformed person in this call is Daniel. Look, man, you get it? Stories are powerful. You help people with stories. So get out of your fucking concepts and get into the stories. Because it's gold.
So would this be too process oriented for a logo? I help experts and executives cut through the corporate crap so they can transform the story.
Yeah, it's a little transform the story.
It falls flat. I get it. I hear it.
It's like, well, what do you mean by transform the story? Because that's a process as opposed to cut through the corporate crap to produce results at a level they didn't think was possible. That's what you did with this person. So something like that, because that's not produce results or transform results or whatever results that they didn't think were possible. To get results, cut through the corporate crap so they can produce results that are not predictable or they didn't think were possible or something like that. See, that's now your messaging, stripped of all the complications, gets just down to I produce results, and then they'll want to hear the stories.
So may I take a swing at the audio logo and then we can move on to the next person?
Yeah.
I help experts and executives cut through the corporate crap to get results they never thought were possible. Thank you. Appreciate all your support. That feels good. I need some mirror practice and Zoom practice, but I think that will flow, and I think it'll attract the kind of people I'm successful with, and I like working.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Fantastic. Exciting. Okay. Who hasn't gone? Put up your hand if you haven't gone. She does. Kelly doesn't want to go, but we'll leave you to last, Kelly. Robert Demery, want to give it a shot?
All righty.
What do?
I help business leaders and their teams quickly release the invisible brakes that hold them back from greater effectiveness.
Okay. Try it without the greater effectiveness. Just hold the brakes that are holding them back.
Okay. All right. Take two.
Yeah. What do?
I help business leaders and their teams release the invisible brakes that hold them back.
Okay. People like that. Okay. Okay. So what do you mean? How do you do that?
Well, let me tell you about a client of mine, Dan, who had just been promoted to a VP of operations. And he found his challenge was that he just couldn't delegate work in the way he needed to in his new role. And he wasn't doing the work that he was promoted into. And his boss was getting ready to fire him because of that. In working with me, he was able to identify, discover these invisible brakes that were holding him back from delegating. And he was able, after that, he was able then to start delegating effectively and do his job as a VP.
Perfect. Yeah, using the invisible brakes in the audio logo and then bringing it in as the thing that you did. We identified those invisible brakes that stopped him from delegating.
Mm-hmm.
All it needs is a little more practice, and practice with Zoom will be good.
Yeah.
Because when you do the video work, you might see, oh, I'm so tentative. Why am I so tentative? And it takes a little while to come out of ourselves and just be clear and straight about what we can really do. And
Robert,
yes.
So Robert, that was one of the best tips that I heard from you, was to use the Zoom to practice. Because when I did that, it showed everything. It was really good.
It shows everything. You can't hide.
No.
Yeah, look, if you do a video and you enjoy watching yourself, you know you're doing a good job. If you're going, oh my God, you know it's time for a redo. And some of you will find this very challenging. But look, all of you guys, everybody here, knows what you're doing. You have a service that produces results. You have a lot of confidence. I know Christine is kind of young in her practice, so maybe she doesn't have as much confidence as some of us do, but you got to start somewhere. So Christine, give your best shot at something. Okay. So what do you do?
Okay. Also, you can call me Kelly, or Kelly Christine is my full name, but you can just easy call me Kelly.
Yeah, I see your name here, and Christine pops out.
There's another Kelly in the group. Yeah.
Yeah, we have two Kellys in the group. We almost had three, and that the third one couldn't be it. That would have been really crazy. Okay, yeah. Kelly.
I really do not feel prepared to tell, like, let me give you an example, but I feel like I want to take after this, like, let it all digest, and then I feel like I could be ready later.
Okay, great. Okay, so good.
Okay,
we made really great progress in this session today. Really great progress. And I think the whole thing about, you're setting up a punchline, you're setting up a joke, so to speak. They ask to know more, and you tell a story. And look, you don't have to have 10 stories. It might be good to have a couple or three. You don't have to have 50, but you have to have a couple or three decent stories. And you articulating that, I had a client, they had this problem. I help them, not too heavy on the process, but some process. You know, the way, you know, watch this video and look, notice how people did it. And then as a result, this is what happened. Wow. It's really persuasive when you do that. Because people are looking for results like that. They're not looking for concepts. And we are lost. You start to get that you're lost in concepts and it doesn't work. And then you do something brilliant like Angela and use a really interesting metaphor. And then that translates into real life. It's like, wow, she's really thought this through. She has a system for communicating clearly about her value, which is the essence of what we're doing here. Okay, so here's the homework. I want you to write out your message. Again, your best one you've got. Practice. I want you to practice it out loud, do it on Zoom, whatever, and then ultimately write it out. And then I want you to write out your story as well. You know, do it aloud first and then on video, whatever, and then transcribe it or whatever. Or write it out first and then say, you know what, however you get to it. But I want to see it in printed form. Here's my message and here's my story. And the story, you have to practice, you have to get it out loud. You know, sometimes you'll use a story on a website, which is fine, but practicing it out loud is really where the brain starts to put it all together and it starts to be coherent for you and the people you're talking to. That makes sense, everybody? Yes? It's just, you know, it's just like, you know, not only are you Hamlet, you have to write the lines for Hamlet. You have to be Shakespeare as well as Hamlet. So that's hard. It takes some work. But it's not that hard. You know, for Garrett, for instance, had one that wasn't good at all, and he just shifted, and all of a sudden it was a lot better. And Maurice was fantastic. His was fantastic. Daniel's was great. Kirk's was great. Angela's was great. Audrey's was great. Simone's was pretty good too. Not perfect, need a little work. Okay. Okay, so we meet same time, same place, next Friday, and put in the work, okay? Put in the time. It doesn't have to be a lot of time, 2 or 3 hours over the next week. Okay, guys, thank you for being here today and have a great weekend.
Robert.
Yes.
When does your time zone change up there?
Yes, it changes for the next meeting.
Okay.
So if you go to, you know, on the homepage, actionplan.club/GOT-2023, you should have that. It has those time zones, but double check it for yourself.
Okay.
For all the US, it stays the same. For other places, it's different for a while.
Okay. Thanks, Robert.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Good job. Great job.